Hey everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show Series. It's so nice to see all your smiley faces. Welcome to the show. Hope you guys are kicking off a beautiful week. If you're not in good spirits, you know what happens. Just stick with us here. We're going to put smiles on your faces. We welcome you. Thanks for all the love and support of our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show Series. You guys have been really rock stars, sharing all the links on your Facebook pages, Twitter, Instagram, connecting with us at Jim Masters TV and all the social media platforms, sending your private messages and all the lovity. We absolutely thank you for that. Watching the episodes, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and helping us continue to grow. We've done it's at least 630 episodes of our incredible series that we do live here. We bring you in, interactive with our lovely audience watching around the world, with our extraordinary guests from all walks of life and Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, and so much more. And we are very excited on this episode to welcome cast and producers of Around the Sun, which is this extraordinary radio drama podcast that everybody's buzzing about. We have Brad Forenza and Joanna Bonaro and David LaRosa joining us live from the New York City area. We're very excited to welcome them. They're going to talk about their individual careers in the entertainment industry and the arts, and also about this really cool and exciting, fantastic radio drama. We're so excited to have them here. We're excited to have you here too as well. While you are watching, gang, as we always say, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us out big time. There's no cost. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our episodes that we do just about 7 days a week, pounding out all this great content, connecting with you, entertaining you, informing, and having a good time. Lots of levity and our famous lovity here on the Jim Masters Show Live. And while you're there and you're subscribing and clicking that red button, don't forget as well to give this episode and all the episodes you enjoy that hearty like. That's right. Give it a like and give it a thumbs up and leave a comment for us as well. We love that. You guys are great. Also, while we're here live, don't forget you can do super chat, super emojis during the live show in chat. If you'd like to comment in chat, the chat that's happening during the live show, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's exclusively for subscribers. They get to chat with each other. We've got a whole lovely family. I'm looking at all these great comments that are coming in here from our regular faithful lovities and everybody that watches, and some new folks too. We thank you for all the comments. You can also comment on the YouTube channel as well. So if you don't get a chance to comment, during the live show, you can comment on the YouTube channel as well. Again, very excited to welcome the gang from Around the Sun here on the show. It's really, really exciting to have them here. If you're not familiar with this really incredible series, it's on the the Broadway Podcast Network, and there's some amazing folks involved. Not just the guests we have tonight, but Marsha Mason, Sally Struthers, B.D. Wong, Lilli Cooper, and so many others. You're going to be even somebody from Mr. Rogers. Now, you guys know my connection with PBS all these years, right? Well, I don't want to give it all away because I want to bring the gang on. They are going to tell us about it all. Brad and Joanna and David, all here from the New York area. Gang, put your hands together and welcome our special guests joining us tonight on the show. And there they are. What a good looking group. Brad's doing the official JMS wave. Yeah. Joanna's doing the wiggle. Good to see you, gang. How you guys doing? Welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having us. And hello to the lovities.
That's right. Gang, I informed Brad and David and Joanna all about the whole lovity thing and how that happened and how we keep the E in lovity and all. And they're all in. You guys are all in for some lovity, huh?
Yeah. We're loving the lovities. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. What the world needs now.
What the world needs now. You can never have enough of it. And so how you guys doing? We have been in, a crazy time, and it's all been teachable moments and life learning and adjusting. But you guys have been creative during it all and have really put together this extraordinary radio drama. Let's tell us about it. You're actors, you're performers. but also producers as well. Brad, let's start with you dreaming up this baby.
Sure. So thank you again, Jim, for having us on. And
My
thank
pleasure.
you, Dave and Joanna, for being part of Around the Sun. Around the Sun is a series of 10 self-contained episodes pertaining to existentialism and human connections made and missed. Joanna and Ms. Maureen Van Zandt appear in one of those 10 episodes, and Dave and Ms. Dolores Catania appear in another. And I have the great privilege of appearing with Mr. Vincent Pastore.
Yes, yes, of course, a legend as well. How did you assemble this extraordinary crew of people to hop on and, hop aboard this wonderful train around the sun? That's really fantastic. You've got an incredible lineup of people.
I'm a very lucky man, Jim, and I'm lucky to have talented friends like Joanna and Dave. I think with respect to Mr. Pastore, Ms. Van Zandt, they are mentors of mine. I have studied with them for a number of years. The same is true for Marsha Mason and Austin Pendleton. And Dolores Catania, who appeared opposite Dave, is actually a cousin. So
wow,
it's all relative. And
yes, literally,
everybody was excited to participate. I'm very honored this time at bat because of the talent attached to the project to have expanded my network and gotten to work with some people that I've admired their work for years, like some of the names you mentioned, Sally Struthers and François Clemmons from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and everyone.
That's really incredible. Austin Pendleton is extraordinary. He was a guest on our show, and we had about a year ago. Got to get him back on, and he was extraordinary. He had an epic 2-hour conversation, just flowed about his whole career, his life, and just everything. And so everybody hopped on board. Everybody exciting. Let's talk about the premise, like you mentioned a little bit of it, but let's dive a little deeper about the storyline, the format, how it all works. It's all virtual now. We're in the new virtual world that everybody's had to sort of embrace. Tell us about how it all works.
Sure. Well, I think like you, Jim, and your wonderful show that started in May 2020, just because pandemic happens and just because we all have to socially distance and stay inside, it doesn't mean that the creative bug just kind of goes away or the creative urges are quelched. I think Dave and Joanna, who are fellow producers, would agree with that. So I had most of these pieces written and developed them as 10-minute plays through the years, probably for about a decade. And when life became remote, and remote technologies such as Zoom and StreamYard and all that stuff became second nature, for better or worse, it seemed like a good time to maybe reconceptualize some of these formerly 10-minute plays and see how they might live in the new podcast landscape. But let's
you just created a new word. Write that down. You just invented a new word. Podscape.
Podscape.
That's
the
a good
Podscape landscape.
Hey, if we got Lovity, you got Podscape. Write it down.
So that's the scoop. That's how it came to be. And some of the pieces, like the one that Mr. Pastore and I appeared in, are completely new and written with good hopes that he would say yes. And written expressly for this audio podcast landscape.
Yes, that's fantastic. So, Joanna, how did you get involved in this fantastic production?
Well,
and welcome.
Thank you. Well, I've known Vinny Pastore. We did a film together years ago. And since then, we've become good friends. And through him, I met Maureen, and I'm in their theater company, Renegade. And Vinny would ask me to sit in as a guest viewer of some of his classes. And I went to many of them. And Brad did performed often, and I was very, very impressed with Brad's talent and his personality, and we became friends. And I just consider it an honor because I think he's so talented, not only as an actor, and at that point I didn't even know he was a writer. And then he did this, you did this off Broadway, right?
Yeah.
And I was in one of the other episodes, which was extremely entertaining and fulfilling as an actress. And then he called me out of the blue and said, do you want to be in a different episode? And I didn't even know that particular one. And I immediately said yes, because if Brad is involved in anything, then I am involved in it.
And you're all in.
Because I admire him so much.
And I'm honored. And I know Dave is next in the queue, but I could easily spend 60 minutes singing Joanna and Dave's praises, because they've both been very supportive of my artistic endeavors through the years in different ways, but supportive nevertheless, and empowering.
That is fantastic. When you have people who are on board and who get it and who roll up their sleeves and they're passionate about it and they help you sort of achieve that dream, there's nothing really better. David, how did you end up a part of the project? And welcome to the show as well.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having myself and Brad and Joanna as well. Brad and I were members of a theater company called Bergen County Players. I had been there back in like 99, and then I left I think in 2008, and then Brad, I think, came there in 2009. And then I saw him in a show, and I had created my own independent film company with my wife and two other members around 2008. And by the time Brad and I connected, that film, Clandestine, we were doing a audience testing over in New Milford High School. And Brad came and he said, "Hey, I'm Brad." We'd spoken a little bit over emails, and he was very, everyone likes to get a compliment after you've just shown your film, and there was an audience testing. So Brad was very complimentary, and then we I think we met. Did we meet up? I think, Brad, for a cup of coffee or something. I don't. It's going back a while now.
I mean, Dave was doing independent film through his production company, Feenix Film. Clandestine had a wonderful message about America's suburban drug epidemic. And I went to see it premiered, as Dave said, but also I was aware of Dave because people at this theater, Bergen County Players, it's a community theater, they had said, "Oh, gee, you're the new Dave LaRosa? Have you met him?" Like, "No, he's not a member anymore. But look what he's doing." And a couple of the members then and I went to go see this film, and Dave was very generous with his time, and I wound up making my first independent film called Breaking Points, also with Dolores Catania, through Dave's mentorship. And yes, Dave, we did, to answer your question, I might have had a bit more than coffee, but you did indulge in just kind of walking me through what it would look like to create an independent project.
Right. Yeah. It's so we've spoken quite a bit, obviously, since then, and Brad is. I think he's extremely talented. After his first movie, I was impressed just with some of the camera setups, shots, ways that he used the camera to convey the story, moments in the script. And I told him that, and he was appreciative because that was your first film. And then we just kept in touch. He's someone who's gone from someone who I was mentoring, so to speak, to just a really close, great friend. So whenever Brad asks me to do something or check something out that he's made, I'm more than happy to do it. And one of the things that Brad does that I love, and I think is really lacking. It's what I try to put into my films, and the film we have coming up as well, is there's a human element. Brad always writes for human beings. He always writes for that human experience that we all go through, regardless of race, orientation, political party, whatever the hell it is. He writes in a way that you can just watch a story and go, well, this is a group. I may not share those views, but I am watching human beings experience what they're experiencing. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I love. And that's what I feel Brad did with Around the Sun, is he took all of these people in the pressure cooker that's New York City, and he gave all of them a voice. And as I listened to the podcast, I could visualize every single location, every character. And that's just something Brad does, which I think is a massive talent that he has.
That's fantastic to be able to
I wanted
really
to add to
capture
David.
The human condition. Yeah, like that's beautiful.
What Brad does is he shows, no matter who the character is or what they say, there's an underlying vulnerability, whether you like the character as you perceive the character, not just as the actor, because you always have to like who you're portraying. But he also, and especially Around the Sun, was showing how human beings are trying to connect.
Yes.
And he does that in real life, and it is also permeates his writing. And that is very fulfilling and gives you something to work with artistically. And that's what I love about Around the Sun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I need a little drink to weather all.
I was just about to say, Brad is turning red now. He's blushing. Adjust his lighting. He's blushing. It's beautiful to hear that. And we talk about that so much. That's why it's so great to have you guys here, because we are all kindred spirits. That's how I think about the world and operate. I'm always looking for ways to bring people together, to empower, to connect, to inspire through my work in television and radio. But even when I'm off the air in the supermarket, that's how I am. I don't know any other way. And I think it's beautiful when you're able to express that desire to be able to bring people together and get them to stop, pause, think, rethink, feel, and to do it through an artistic way. An expression of art is very fulfilling and very extraordinary. And that you can see Brad White, Joanna said, I want to hop on. David said, I want to be a part of this, because it's very cathartic and therapeutic for everybody involved, including the audience that's consuming it, for all of you together, which, as somebody who's a creator and a producer, that is very fulfilling for you too, Brad, isn't it?
For sure. And with Joanna and Dave, who are also friends in addition to colleagues and collaborators, we can have fun. And we can have fun outside of the art. And then, of course, the art is the work. And it can be enjoyable, and we can still go deep into whatever the piece happens to be, whatever the project happens to be, Around the Sun or something different.
So what inspires you, Brad? I often ask this question. In order to be able to capture this in the way that you do, and your other pieces of work, same with Joanna and David, you have to really be an observer of life. You're probably on a train, on a bus, in a supermarket, wherever, and you're just soaking it all in and sort of casually just watching, observing, and you're inspired by what you see going on around you in life in general. I find that to be the case for me. The minute I step outside, I'm always just watching and casually observing and seeing how interactions are happening, and that really fills me and gives me a lot of creative juice as well. Would you say you're an observer of life?
I would, absolutely. If that's meant for me to answer, absolutely, I would. Yes. I grew up with heavy influence from all of my grandparents. And to that end, I had exposure to pop culture that probably was generations older than pop culture that my peers were exposed to. You had Lloyd Schwartz on not too long ago. I loved the interview. I learned a lot. But also, the way in which an older adult approaches the world is different than the way in which an elementary school kid or a middle school kid approaches the world. And it just, for me, that's one example of seeing life through someone else's eyes. And I'm very lucky to have seen it through their eyes.
So I have a question for all of you, and maybe even for the viewers. Insider training, a prostitute, coming out, a subway ride to hell, side hustles, running the New York City Marathon, and a stool pigeon. What do all of these things have in common? Feel free. And are there things in common? That's
I'm going to toss it to my pals.
All right, pals, David and Joanna.
Well, I think part of it is to repeat what I said before. It's the vulnerability and people trying to connect, and sometimes they're likable and sometimes they're highly dislikable. Yeah. But you know, you're always looking as an actor at subtext, what's going on underneath the words. And I think that vulnerability, or why are people doing this? Why are they behaving this way? Is that there's always a reason behind people's behavior that may not be so apparent. So you have all these different characters that seem disparate, you know, but they all have that thing in common, which is there's always a reason, a specific reason for what they're doing. And when you hear it, and as the story evolves, it gets you thinking about like why, and then that can extend to your life is like, then maybe you're being more introspective and saying, okay, why is this person doing this? How is they behaving this way? And so it echoes reality in many ways. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, I agree.
Beautifully. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
If I can add to that, I think there's a rule in acting and writing and directing, and it's show, don't tell. Without speaking for Joanna or Maureen Van Zandt, they're in one of the episodes together. They're co-stars. And I would classify their piece in which they starred. It's called Wall Street. It's the stool pigeon one that you referenced. And I would classify it as a comedy. And yet at one of our breaks in takes, I remember Joanna and Maureen disclosing what they were playing. And without having communicated it to each other, they kind of had the same impression of what the dramatic subtext for this otherwise potentially broad comedy was. And that was really beautiful.
That's fantastic.
And so the audience may or may not ever figure out what their motivation was in playing that piece, but they were totally synchronous in playing it.
That is fantastic. This is also like a Valentine to the city you love, right, Brad?
Oh, for sure. For sure it is. I live in Jersey City. New York City is
right
behind
across the water.
No, that's just a gas station and a Dunkin' that's glowing in the dark. But it's a little lighter out. We
would never have known. It looks like Lower Manhattan.
And I've got product placement back there too. You can see our poster.
Yes.
Yeah, I miss New York. I'm sure we all do. I miss being with people. I miss hugging people. And, the subway, maybe I don't miss it so much, but there's certainly something to say for just seeing people and being out and about with your guard down.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And that's really important to be able to do that. So how long, again, did it take from the initial germ of the idea to actually putting it together? Because again, remote technology being done during a pandemic, you really had to pull things together as a team to make this happen, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say again that most of the pieces had been written. So refining them for a podcast landscape, not a podscape, that took some time of my own, and it's concentrated, quiet, introverted time. But then production, where the rubber meets the road, I would say that was about a 6-month process from start to finish. And yeah, it's not the work, it's all the stairs, as they say. So coordinating dates and asking people humbly if they'll commit and discerning their availability, pairing it up with their co-stars' availability is all administrative. But then the art, it's cliche, it's Sondheim, but putting it together, watching Dave and Dolores, Joanna and Maureen act their pieces. I get to see all of it. The audience can hear all of it. That's a beautiful process. That's Sunday.
It really, really is. I'd love to delve a little bit into your individual backgrounds too, Brad. You mentioned having, a wonderful familial exposure early on. How did you first get involved in the arts and the world of performance and producing and creation? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I imagine, like Joanna and Dave, I kind of came up in school doing shows and stuff like that. But what was different from me is that I also straddled that AV world, and they were different cliques of peers. I loved them all, and I'm still close with some. But the theater kids didn't necessarily hang out with the AV kids. Not that there was, it wasn't the Jets and the Sharks, but there wasn't much overlap except for me. And years later at Bergen County Players, that's why I needed to meet Dave, because I was showing up and being their AV person for a period of time, just in helping to promote the shows that they were doing.
Yeah.
And being in them as well. And for some people that might be two different hats, but for people like Dave and Joanna and I, producing is an art in itself.
Yes.
Writing is an art, and it's recognized as such. And acting is an art, and it's recognized as such. But putting it all together, as it were, I have a deep appreciation for the art of producing now. Whereas when I first approached Dave all those years ago, I maybe understood what producing was through Lou Grant, but I didn't really know that it could be an art in itself.
So you're saying your team of actors and actresses have spunk, like Lou Grant said to Mary Tyler Moore?
I would like to think that everyone in the project has their own flair of spunk.
Yeah, that's Joanna, how about you? How did you make your entree into the world of artistic performance and creativity?
Well, I was always interested in acting and all, and Katharine Hepburn growing up was one of my key favorites.
Yeah.
And so I went to NYU School of the Arts, but I had to make a deal with my very traditional Italian parents from the Bronx that I would double major and double minor. So I double majored in 18th century British literature, which was also a very, very practical major, in politics and Spanish. And then I pursued it for a year, but didn't really, I didn't have the gumption, and I was very shy. Nobody ever believes this, but I'm a natural introvert. So I just stopped acting. And then I worked for many, many years and was successful, and worked at Estee Lauder, was in charge of a huge account.
Really? My mother worked for Estee Lauder for 33 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was an account executive in charge of the second largest account in the world. And one day I just turned to my husband and I said, everyone's impressed with my life except me. I just wanted to act. And so we made a deal. And to make a long story short, I returned to acting and studied and just kind of worked my way from the bottom up, studying, meeting people, networking. and eventually, getting the agent, getting the manager, and getting the roles that were more fulfilling.
What was the first one that you got that really made a difference and sort of got the ball rolling for you, Joanna?
It was The Sopranos.
Good one.
So yeah.
I mean, wow, that's incredible, huh?
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow, that's fantastic. And David, how about you?
Let's see. Well, I guess my first interest was as a kid. There was a rather well-known 1970s sitcom-y type of show. And one day I'm watching it, and I was talking about who my favorite character was on the show. And my parents said, well, you're related to him. He's your second cousin or whatever.
Wow.
So that started something in my head where there was this fascination that, and then they showed me some family photos. I've never met him, but at the time it was pretty profound for a wee lad. But there was something about the fact that I was watching something on TV, and there was something real in the real world, and that odd mystical bridge that occurs between you, the audience, and the screen, and then what went on behind the veil with the wizard to make this big thing. To make it
happen.
I ignored that, of course, because I was young and decided I want to get involved in government and politics and all that stuff. So I would do plays and all that other odds and ends, but always come to life when my friends and I were playing G.I. Joe or Transformers. Suddenly it was like, oh, if we could only get these helicopters on strings and have them really fly in. So it was at once. I think it was junior in college, and I just said, what am I doing? This is stupid. I want to act. I don't want to do all this other stuff. I want to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
So I started acting, and then immediately a lot of my acting teachers said to me, why don't you try to be a director too? And I was like, I know, I'm young. I want to be in front of the camera, so everyone can see me. And then I matured, and I realized in 2008, my wife and I had put on our own, she wasn't my wife yet, but we had put on our own production company, did an off-Broadway theater show. Then we did a mockumentary about a moving company, which was unbelievably politically incorrect. I think Brad saw it. Brad looked it up. But we made it for $400. And then we created Feenix Films, which I mentioned before, which existed for about 10 years. And I just discovered this love of writing, directing, producing, acting, editing. Although editing is tough, so I'm kind of happy to not edit. We hire people to edit now, but it just has been it's a journey. You start in one place and you grow, and things that happen. My experience acting led me to be able to maybe speak to actors in different ways. There's some other directors I know who some of their quotes have been, well, look, I don't know why she's not doing what I'm asking her to do. I'm the director, just do it. And I'm like, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work that way.
No, you need to find first cast good to start so that you don't have to do acting lessons, on during the shoot. You just see things differently. Sometimes when an actor's struggling because you've been there, you've been there yourself. It was great that night when you were rehearsing in the mirror, but now it's just falling apart. Mm-hmm. So it's a fascinating journey. Each film that we did, we started small, like I said, $200 to $400 for our first project, and now we're doing equity crowdfunding for our next film, and we're looking for $500K, if not more. But that's our first goal, and you just keep on moving the ball up the field, and having Brad be a part of that, he's going to be in the next film as well, is very exciting. You want to work with fun people. You want to work with nice people. You don't want to work with people who just you don't get along with, or they bring a lot of negativity, to your day. It's just stressful enough to make a movie, or do a podcast or anything,
Right. Positive energy. Positive energy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
Jim, can I ask a question to you and
Sure.
Dave and Joanna?
Yeah.
I know you host, so answer if it applies and if you're inclined, but Joanna and Dave, writing and producing, as fellow actors who also write and produce, and Jim, answer if it applies. Does your writing and producing give you different perspective as an actor and or a host, Jim?
That's a very good question. I would say it does. Yeah, it does. It's interesting because I'm involved in so many different worlds, from hosting to producing to journalism. I've done acting as well, and voiceover work. So a lot of different hats, a lot of different
voice
places. Yeah, a lot of networks, TV stations, radio stations, productions, and I think the writing and the producing does add a different perspective. What's really interesting that I've discovered about myself over the years is I love live and I love conversational and warm, but I also love ad lib. I love pulling off the energy. Like there's 4 of us on this screen right now, and none of us have scripted this. There's no pre-prepared questions. We're just flowing and going like a live, living, breathing organism. And there's something really cool and adrenaline inducing that really happens to me. And I say it often, people say, Jim, you're always so calm, cool, and collected. You're always this connective tissue. You always walk in the room when the building's on fire, and you start with levity and you relax us, and you never ask for anything, and you bring it all together. Underneath all that, all cylinders are firing. I hear everything. I see everything. I know everything that's going on, but it appears like I'm just all calm, cool, collected. I love the challenge of that. I love the fact that sometimes there's a net, but there's no net at the same time, that there's a format, there's a structure, but there's that element of anything can happen. And sometimes we can produce that and write that. And then there's times when just doing it and allowing it to happen. There's been so many times, and I'm sure you've all experienced it, where I've been thrown out on stage as a master of ceremonies or whatever, television, radio host, whatever it is, and the place is burning, everything's going wrong, and I'm thrown out there like, make something happen, please, just say something, do something. And I absolutely love that challenge of bringing things together, especially when things are not necessarily going as planned. There's something just really, it gets my endorphins going. And in this case, like what we're doing now, we've all met each other for the very first time, and we're conversing and learning about one another. People are watching that, soaking that up. And there's just something really exciting about that. So I think I like the structured, where I've written it and produced it. And I do a lot of that work in my professional work. And then I also love the balance of, hi, how are you? Here we are. Let's make magic together. There's something really exciting for me in doing that. I hope that sort of semi-answers the question.
Let's connect.
Yes, that's what it's all about. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you, Joanna, same thing, the writing and producing, how that enhances?
I would say I agree with a lot of what you said. It's interesting, when I wrote my TV pilot, Good and Screwed, of course, I wrote it with very specific actors in mind. So I kind of knew the nuances and how they spoke and all. But when we got on set, and I'll segue into something else, but when we got on set, I didn't think my words were, Tennessee Williams here. So I said to the actors, if you need to change a line or you need to experiment, also because I'm an actress, I said, I want you to feel free to do that.
Sort of make it your own.
It's not sacrosanct. as long as you understand the objective and who the character is and what's going on, this is not sacrosanct, And I said, and the other thing that I realized as a producer and a writer was that I really wanted to have a fun experience. So I said to everyone, and I knew they weren't, I said, I chose actors specifically because I said, no divas.
Yeah.
We're all going to get along. The objective is to make a really great show, but it's also to have a memorable life experience.
Mm-hmm.
I said that to everyone. I said, I want you to leave this project, no matter where it goes or no matter what happens to it, that you really had a fun time, a fulfilling time. And as a life experience, you enjoyed this particular project that you were involved in. So that's kind of where my awareness went.
How about you, David?
Yeah, I think sorry, I was just focusing so much on what Joanna was saying. I forgot what the question was.
As a writer and producer,
right.
do you approach your acting differently, or does it give you different perspective?
Yeah, it did. When I started as an actor, becoming a director, and we started our film company, my attitude was like, the actors are like the Jews who built the pyramids, and the industry are the Egyptians that just abuse us. And there's some truth to that. But I also started to realize as a writer and producer and director that some actors can be a real pain in the ass. So, and some directors can be, and some writers and some producers. And that kind of goes to exactly what Joanna was saying about not having divas or anything like that. I really started to realize how important it was to be open and flexible. And in our last film, which I mentioned before, Clandestine, the writer, Kate McGrath, who's one of my business partners, she wrote it based, her father was a Long Island cop for 30 some odd years. And this was near and dear to her heart. Yeah. Now, I had written a script called Nicky Newark, which we're doing a remake of that called The Tale of Nicky Newark. That's the thing we're doing the equity crowd raise on. But this was near and dear to her heart. And I had said to her, I like to kind of not always do it totally by the script. We'll do a couple of takes, but then I also love to do a scene or two of just improv and let the actors improv. And she... and we had good communication. So she was open to that, although there were certain things that she wanted certain lines, certain ways, which was fine. But then we had Tom Sizemore in the movie. He played a corrupt politician. And my wife played the DEA officer who has to go to him, and they have this blowout argument. And we did it. We did the scripted version, and then I was like, we're paying a lot of money for Tom Sizemore, so he's going to do some work for us. So we had him improv, and my wife improv, and some of my most favorite moments of that scene are improv moments between the two of them, because they understood the script, they had read it, they knew what needed to be in the script. It's why I love improv, and that mockumentary about a moving company that I mentioned before. The whole thing was improv. The other creator and I knew what the start point was, we knew what the middle was, and we knew what the end was. Right. And then the actors could just have a blast all around that, Yeah. So that's really what I kind of learned, is that being a writer and a producer and director and then an actor is just, you have to be flexible. If you come in with a preconceived belief of I'm definitely doing it this way, and that's it. For Around the Sun, for my scene, Red Light, I had something very different in my head about who my character was. That he was this guardian angel who was trying to help Dolores's character. And I don't think I mentioned that to you at first, Brad, until
no. And just for the levities, Dolores's character is a professional woman, a lady of the night.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And And when I read it, I had this take of, well, this guy is actually a guardian angel. He's here to try to save her and give her an example of maybe a slightly different life. But I didn't mention that to Brad, but I kind of played it in my own head. So there's moments where he fluctuates a lot because he's trying to pin and hit different things in her to get a response out of her, have her awaken, so to speak. And then when I mentioned it to Brad later on, Brad said, well, that's very interesting. That was an interesting choice. But I had to be flexible in saying, this is what my thought is, but I still need to do what the director wants and give certain reads certain ways and indicate certain things. So it's just the flexibility. And life just, I think, is more enjoyable when you're flexible. I mean, you can't, be blowing around in the wind all the time, but, it's what was it, Bruce Lee said, you have to be like water. Just be fluid, be like water. And I believe that. Not that I always am, I have to be honest, but I try to be.
But you try. How about you, Brad? How do you answer the question that you posed?
Well, gee, it would help to kind of think of an answer to my own question. I think
about ad-libbing, right? And improv.
I think I have a greater appreciation for I haven't just straight up acted in a project in a while. I have the privilege of working with Mr. Pastore and Ms. Van Zandt on something now in real time. And it's still in its development stages, but I haven't really sunk my teeth into a dramatic role in a long time. But I can tell you that the next time I do, I will approach it as a privilege to be invested in a project wearing the hat of an actor, which is one role, and I can do that job well. Whereas wearing the producer's hat, it too is one role, and the perspective is broader, and you have to just be judicious with how much attention you're giving to everything. And you have different kinds of stresses. Like as an actor, I can focus on my part and doing my part well and being true to my intention or objective. And then as a producer, I think of things like, I have to push this project forward into the universe and get it out there to people so that they listen, so that I'm doing right by Joanna and Dave and their hard work on this project. And thanks to you, Jim, and our mutual friend, Suzanne Curry, who's also a co-producer on the project, I'm able to do that a little bit better than I could just by myself.
It takes a village, right? Having supportive people around. It may be your vision and your dream, but when you have supportive people that sort of believe in it and they want it to come to fruition, and you all experience and the fruits of the labor, it's a beautiful thing, right? It takes a little bit of the pressure and the load off of you so you can focus on the things you really want to focus on. And then it brings in more energy and suggestions and ideas. Because you can have this baby and then sort of this project, but then people bring in other different things that you're like, gee, I didn't think of it that way. I was always hung up on that over there, but I like that. Let's see if we can incorporate that into the mix. Sometimes there are, like we've all worked with people where whether it's a fellow on air or, acting talent, whatever it may be, or producer or director, it's just that way, no alteration, no room for breathing or changing or shifting, even shifting with the times or topical nature of anything. And sometimes that can be very, very sort of claustrophobic. So I think when you have the opportunity to have people around you who believe in it and feel it and want it to actually become something, it's really an extraordinary and sometimes rare thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it without blowing too much smoke, it does help that Dave and Joanna have produced. It does help that Vin and Maureen have directed, and same with Marsha and Austin, and on and on. So different awarenesses that you pick up as you go along. But I've learned a lot, and on Around the Sun, I'm always learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I would like to think that directing Dave and Joanna and others in Around the Sun is a more evolved experience than my directing skills a few years back. I remember having been schooled by an actor with some great credits, and it was not a diva moment. It was totally educational for me. But I lost sight of the fact that this person was coming to that project with their own interpretation of that role. And it can't be too top down. It can't be a marionette show. Yes, the director's kind of overseeing that creative process, but the actor has something to contribute to beyond being a pretty face. They have knowledge, they have experience, they have their own interpretation of the role, and they're the vessel. They're the vessel that's going to push the role forward.
Exactly right. Yes. And that's really what it is, because sometimes, like you say, you can have it down on paper, and then the actor, the actress, the performer, the talent, whoever takes it, and then they sort of add their own nuances to it, and it brings it to life in ways that are sometimes even beyond anything that the creator might have dreamed. They enhance it, they take it, and it's just like you're sitting back saying, oh my God, that's extraordinary. That's like melted butter. It's fantastic. And that's a great feeling, right?
Yeah, but I have a sneeze coming on, so I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. 3, 2, 1. Talk about, is that more ad-libbing, Brad, the sneeze?
No, it passed. But as I look down, I do see this wonderful trophy that belongs to Suzanne Curry. She doesn't know it yet, but it also belongs in part to Joanna and Dave and the rest of the cast. And
let's show that full
our
screen.
other co-producer, Brian Dashu, who's watching. And this is our best scripted podcast / best, I got to get the verbiage right, podcast ensemble at the December 2021 Cutting Room International Film Festival. Kat Michio, festival director. Thank you, Kat. And this is going to Suzanne the next time I see her.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
It's a community effort. I think that's one of the through lines here in our time together.
Yes, that's really, really what it is. I'd love to have, for anybody joining us, later in this broadcast, again, tell us a little bit about it. Each self-contained episode of Around the Sun explores human connections made and missed with this existential New York flair. And tell us a little bit more about what people can expect. And again, you have a certain amount of episodes that have been created. Yeah. You've got these extraordinary performers, like you say, Vincent Pastore, who we know from The Sopranos, Austin Pendleton, my cousin Vinny, of course, Pendleton, Marsha Mason, The Goodbye Girl, Sally Struthers, I mean, All in the Family, and so much more. Ryan Witherspoon, incredible people. François Clemmons, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and on and on and on. Extraordinary cast.
Some of them, as I said earlier, you're asking someone to give their time and talent, and this is the first time I've gone out of my network to bring people into a project that I was producing, that I had written. So you're asking for their good name, you're asking for their time, you're asking for their talent. And sometimes I have never had a bad experience in meeting my idols, including the ones who are in this project. And sometimes it's purely a professional relationship, which is what it's supposed to be. But other times, as is the case with Mr. Clemmons, as is the case with a couple others, a friendship is born nevertheless. Yeah. And just like I can now call Joanna and Dave personal friends in addition to collaborators, I would like to think that François Clemmons would say the same of me. So you never know where life is going to go. And with respect to don't meet your idols, the Vincent Pastores, the Maureen Van Zandts of the world, they haven't disappointed to date.
I would say, some people have asked me this question too. I would say that at the top of that same sort of list for me, and sometimes it's difficult sometimes if you're in a position where you're interviewing or hosting, or you're brought together with people that you've admired either within your own industry or, external connections to your industry. There's a few people that I've had the phenomenal luxury of knowing and meeting and chatting with and expanding further with, who have exactly met what I had always hoped, and admiring what they do and how they've touched, our lives. They've met, if not exceeded, those expectations that we have. Not that there are people once in a while that you come across, you're like, oh my God, they're not anything like they are on stage or on television or you hear on radio or in film. Complete opposite. But the ones that come to mind, Carol Burnett, really fabulous. Exactly like you would hope. Warm, funny, approachable, no ego, no airs about her, just Carol. And Florence Henderson.
Oh, I just listened to you talking about her in that Lloyd Schwartz interview.
The Lloyd Schwartz, whose father created the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island and all the others. That was fun being a TV person. We really enjoyed that. But she was exactly, and she used to write to every single person that ever wrote to her. She actually told me that about a week before she had passed, unfortunately, on that Thanksgiving a few years ago. And she wrote back to everybody. She totally got it. She appreciated what it was all about, what it meant to be people, whether she was Carol Brady on the Brady Bunch or anything else that she did. She had a fabulous career.
She was, I remember she hosted something that maybe is the equivalent of the 10 o'clock hour of the Today Show. She did this in the 90s, and it
was the Today Show, that other hour. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of remember her having a more biting sense of humor.
Oh, sure. She was very
Carol Brady.
saucy.
She's a real person.
I was at a gala event, and they brought me into a VIP room at this event, and she was emceeing this event that normally was emceed by Kathy Lee Gifford and Frank Gifford, but that year Frank passed away. So they brought in their other friend, and that was Florence Henderson, and she was the MC. So I had been there at this VIP event that I'm usually always at. And this was actually the first of the times that we had chatted and met. And they brought me into this room, which was, it was just so unusual. It was like a movie script. They bring me into the VIP area, mobbed with people, sort of dimly lit, but you see across the way, just like a movie, there's Florence Henderson in a white pantsuit with her beautiful blondish hair. And there was a spotlight on her over in the corner, and all of these people around her. I mean, hundreds of people around her, who've probably maybe even donated to have the opportunity to even go up to her or what have you, to support the charitable event that it was. So, I don't know if it was God, divine, what had happened. I still can't explain it. I'm brought into the entrance, the double door entrance, where I'm not even lit up. It's dark where I am. Somehow she sees me again from across the room, like across the restaurant. She has, with all these people around her, I mean, hundreds of people. She sees me. She turns around. She makes a beeline, parts the seas like Moses, comes straight through the crowd, right to me. I don't know if it was some sort of an energy. Really extraordinary. And then the professional photographer who was there was taking all the photos, and she grabs him by the arm. She says, I want a picture with him. I want to know who he is. And I'm saying to myself, she's actually saying my line. That's my line.
Beat me to the punch.
It was extraordinary. And the whole rest of the night, we were chatting, and we ended up constantly bumping into each other. The elevator doors would open. There she's coming out, or I'm going in. It was extraordinary. And there was a period around this wine area reception where she was here, and then another great friend, Sonny Grasso, who is the New York police detective, where the French Connection was really after him, celebrating him. Sonny Grasso was there, and others. And this photographer came around again, and the photographer said, I want to squeeze all of you together. So, okay. So Florence is like right here in front of me, and they say, Florence, you need to scoot down and you need to get closer. So she sits right on my lap. Now, all of a sudden, I'm now 11 years old, and Mrs. Brady is sitting on my lap, and I'm holding her up. She's now Carol Brady again. I'm like, wait a minute. This is like, I could never have imagined or dreamed or scripted this. And
like the dance at the gym and West Side Story, all that exists is 10-year-old you and Carol Brady.
The 10-year-old version of Jimmy, Jimmy Masters came, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm holding up Carol Brady, Florence Henderson. So when she gets up in that white pantsuit, looked very angelic, beautiful, friendly, funny, saucy, yes. I say to her, knowing she would laugh, I always try to feel out, situations in advance. And I said, Carol, or actually Florence, I'm never going to wash these pants again. She turned around and she goes, Jim, I bet you won't. It was just she. And at the very end, when the night was over, she was coming out of the elevator with her two daughters. Her daughters were with her. And it was extraordinary because all of a sudden I happened to be in an area where I'm talking with people, and the beeline was again to me. And we're talking, and I said to her at that time, everything that I felt that she meant to me, and to like I was representing everybody else. Just want you to know how much you meant to us, your extraordinary talent, your wonderful personality, everything. And she reached over, gave me a kiss on the cheeks, said, Jim, I will never forget you. It was extraordinary meeting you. And again, I said to myself, you're stealing my line. And she said, have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope we meet again. She goes out the doors of this hotel. This was in Stamford, Connecticut. The doors open. She's accompanied by the daughters on each side, and she goes off into the fog. Off into the fog. What, a week or two later, my phone starts blowing up on Thanksgiving morning, and everybody's leaving me messages, and then Facebook's blowing up, and they're all extending condolences to me. And the cell phone woke me up out of a sleep, and I'm like, what's happening here? Why did somebody pass away in the family? Because they're giving me condolences, the public at large. And it turns out that Florence had passed away on that Thanksgiving, just a couple weeks after we met. She had been in Hollywood rooting on Maureen McCormick, who was in Dancing with the Stars, and Florence was there, at the studio rooting her on. And people were extending condolences to me for the loss of Florence Henderson. And it was like the loss of a family member. I could not believe that outpouring that came. So I said to a few folks, I said, the way that this all played out, where all of a sudden she came across this dark room and parted the seas, and for some reason came straight to me, what do you make of all of this? And a number of people have said things like, you were supposed to meet for whatever reason, however you look at it, you guys were those energies were supposed to come together before she left us. That was supposed to happen. However, it was just supposed to happen that she and you were supposed to meet and have that time before she passed. And I've had a number of people say that. And I really, believe that was, sometimes people come in and out of your life and they leave these impressions that are very deep and incredible and profound. And it did feel like the loss of a family member. So yeah, she was extraordinary. Cara Burnett, Judy Collins, another one I had an opportunity to interview on PBS. Fabulous, terrific. We were in the studio, actually at WNET 13 in New York. She was seated at the piano. We were doing a national special celebrating 50 years in the business for Judy. White pantsuit thing again. Beautiful hair, curled and angelic looking. And another one with a terrific sense of humor. I said, Judy, you know, seated at the piano and everything, looking up, you the beautiful blue eyes and super talent, legend. And I said, Judy, you look, I mean, the way the lights were on her with that pantsuit and the hair and the blue eyes and looking up from the piano, I said, you look absolutely angelic. And she goes, oh, little do you know. That's just like, so yeah. I'm happy that there have been some people that I've hoped would live up to whatever you would hope, and they met, if not exceeded, that. Just made it even richer. How about you guys, David, Joanna? People that you've worked with or you've come across in your experiences that you've always admired them for whatever reason, and they turned out to meet or exceed what you had hoped?
Joanna, you want to go, and then I'll jump in with my stuff.
I would say when I was on Law and Order SVU, Mariska Hargitay, I always admired, actually for all of the things she did off screen, along with her extreme beauty and talent. And she was an absolute angel. So I idolized her, and then I continued afterwards to idolize her. Yeah. And then, of course, it was really like meeting Vinny Pastore. I was on my way to the film set, and I knew he was in the film, but then I was looking at the script again, and I called my husband, and I said, you know, I think actually I'm going to be working with Vinny today, and nobody's told me, Vincent Pastore. Yeah. And I thought I knew he was in the film, but I had no idea he was going to be on set that day. And we just hit it off. We knew all these people in common, and we had mutual friends, but we had just never connected. And he became like a big brother. And I mean, that was so serendipitous. It really was serendipitous. And he's, I adore him. I adore him.
What I have found sometimes that I forgot to mention is when you're in a role or a position where you are in a studio, and I've been in situations where they've been a special guest, you know, on television or radio, and I've had to interview them. You have to sort of contain the zealous feeling that you have and just be that professional person who's, you know, maybe after the shoot is over, after the event is over, you can express to them. But while you are, you know, tasked with having to, you know, interview, host, whatever it is, that person that you admire so much, sometimes you can struggle with the adulation that you have for them and want to express it. And you have to contain that. So I've been in situations like that with some where I'm like, oh my God, I think they're amazing. They're fantastic, but I have a job to do.
And I think that's the one, that it is a job for you and for them. And in some careers, the work speaks to us and the work touches us. But for most, it is work, and they're separate from the work, but still it resonates with us, and they've done a good job. And
yeah, you've been touched by what they do or what they've said somehow, in some way. It just connected with you, and that's what life really is, and the arts, and so much, you know, music, film, television, any of this, stage. It's all about relatability and how we relate to all of this. How about you, David? Any stories as well?
Well, I'll share a Brady story. I wasn't going to say anything, ironically, but since everything went into a Brady world,
I opened the door for
Brady Podscape.
Don't tell me you met Alice or Tiger.
No, that cousin I spoke about is actually Christopher Knight. So Peter
really?
Brady. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Peter.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
I didn't
either.
tell you. I thought I told you. Maybe I didn't.
Wait,
I don't really
wait.
tell people because I've never met him. So it's kind of like,
We've got a graphic for that, David.
yeah.
World premiere exclusive. You heard it here first on the Jim Master Show Live.
So
That's kind of cool, huh?
yeah, his actual last name is Kazumplik. His father, Eddie Knight, changed the name. So my grandfather, Anton Kazumplik. His brother, Eddie, is Christopher's father. So I met Eddie when my grandmother passed away. He came when my grandfather passed away. He came for the funeral back in 2006. But
amazing.
And then I think he was leaving to go do the Brady, not Brady. What's that reality show he had with his then wife?
Oh yeah,
Very Brady Marriage or something. I don't remember.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So.
So do
yeah,
you have
so
a craving for pork chops and applesauce every once in a while?
So for me, that was crazy as a kid because I Peter Brady was my favorite Brady. And then, that was, Peter, that's the episode that's all about Peter. And I'd be so excited.
Right.
And then my mom said, that's your second cousin. And then she showed me these pictures of her as a kid with them all playing on, the floor or whatever before they moved to California. So,
Incredible.
I just figured I'd throw that out there since you were talking about Florence and everything.
Yeah. Amazing.
So, I guess, what I think it was probably more of my wife met Liam Neeson and said he was exactly what you would hope. He was just a really cool dude and was wondering like where she was going to get the funding from, for the next movie. Because he was trying to raise a movie for Irish Rep. But I got to say, when I first started getting into acting, it was 94, 95. And Heat came out. And I remember watching that movie and saying, this guy, I don't know who this Tom Sizemore guy is, but he would scare the crap out of me. He just looks like a scary guy.
Is he related to Kevin? Are they Kevin Sizemore?
I don't know. I know he has a brother who's a writer.
I wonder if we had Kevin on. I didn't ask Kevin. I wonder if there's a connection.
It could be. Yeah, there could be. But that was when I got to direct him, that was just like a personal accomplishment because here I had a moment like we're all talking about. We're getting ready we'd met him the night before the hotel we put him up with because my wife had the scene with him. And he was telling us about stories about Ridley Scott and Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. And, you're sitting there and you're like, wow, these guys were 4 feet away from you at some point, just like I am. That's insane. And then when he showed up the next day to film, he was intense, Tom. It was like, Tom's here to do a job and stuff like that. And, it was a great feeling to just be able to slide into that feeling of everyone's here to do a job.
Right.
And that's what we're going to do. And I've seen Brad do that with directing from his first film to where, he really focuses in on, and that's what I wanted to say before when we were talking about something was, to see Brad grow with each project and then also just build on what he learned from the last one. And just keep on upping his game and upping his game and upping his game. And always making his projects interesting, So anyway, but that was just something I wanted to say just about, directing and having that moment where it really is just about the job. It's a job at the end of the day. That's stuff we get so wrapped up in the persona.
Yes.
When I walked Sizemore back to his dressing room when he had wrapped with his shooting, he's talking to me about his kids.
Yes.
And everyone's had this experience. I'm not saying anything crazy. He's talking about his kids and, he wants them to go to school and, stuff like that. I mean, that's what we talked about. And we bumped into at a film festival, Federico Castelluccio from The Sopranos. And he was probably my favorite character on the show. And then when I met him, I was like, this is a great guy. I like this guy. He's just a nice guy, very respectful, very nice, very polite. And that was very, nice to see. So, and then some other people I've met, I won't say anything, but it's,
that's the other list.
Yeah. There's this one,
that other list. Yeah.
You're right.
That is funny.
Yeah.
The title Around the Sun. Tell us about that, Brad. What was the inspiration for the title?
Around the Sun. So typically a birthday, New Year, people will post their Facebook messages that say another trip around the sun. And remember that this started, for me, reconceptualizing some of these theatrical pieces to be scripted podcast, self-contained episodes happened in the early days of pandemic, specifically in quarantine. And then production didn't start until much later. But I didn't know this thing was going to go into a third year. I thought it would be, this is an odd year and this is an opportunity to get the creative juices flowing and cap it after 12 months. But life had other plans, but that's okay because it gave me a new way to approach my art. Just like Jim, I think it gave you a new medium through which to express your talents. There's a lot of that going around.
There is. There really, really is. And a lot of teachable moments. Maybe we'll do a quick round robin here. What have each of you learned maybe about the world and or yourselves during this time of reflection and reboot and the pandemic? As far as a lot of people are, some people are completely rewriting their script as far as what they want to do next, whether it's their careers, their relationships, their zip code, whatever it is. They've been really making major changes, some making some tweaks. What have each of you learned about yourselves during this time of reflection and great pause? And how has that sort of been woven into you going forward with your art and as an individual? Start with you, Brad.
Sure. And I have an unrehearsed answer because I didn't know that question was coming. But
that's it.
Back in those early days of the pandemic in spring 2020, 2 years ago, it was a welcome opportunity to kind of look inward, be quiet, do some concentrated work, revisit these scripts. That's a lot of quiet time, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay being introverted. However, I've also learned about myself that can only work. There's a shelf life on my introversion. I would never classify myself as an exclusive extrovert. I'm not, but I need a balance of both. So too much quiet.
Are you an extrovert? Have you heard of extroverted introvert?
I think I'm the opposite.
So you're an introverted extrovert?
An acting out introvert. I definitely like one-on-one dinners as opposed to big group parties. I definitely am okay with alone time, but too much of it will make me a bit batty. So production for this project came when I needed it to come, but now I'm ready to get back there in the world and act on a stage, be with people, share physical space with people beyond the grocery store.
Yeah. That's it, right? How about you, Joanna?
I think I learned to be, sorry about my background phone. I forgot to turn it off. But,
that's fine.
Is it a landline?
It's live. What?
Tell Mom we said hello, Joanna.
I learned that I'm even more grateful for the people that I love and my friends and who are close to me. I value them. I never thought I took them for granted. I think we all kind of do every once in a while, but I learned to really appreciate, because you needed to, as isolating as it was, you still had people caring for one another, you know, delivering that, you know, that N95 mask when there were none to be had.
Yes.
And, you know, traveling across town just to bring it to you.
Yes.
Or someone calling up and needing, it sounds mundane, but, you know, like tuna fish or some milk. You know, I live in New York City, so it's a big building, and we do have friends in the building, and, you know, you're scared to leave your apartment, especially at the height of it, but you're like, no, it's important to help this person, you know, it's just important. And it goes back to kindness and connectivity, and also valuing all the people out there that were putting their lives on the line. So at was it 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock every day when we come outside to clap? I mean, I did that religiously every single day because I felt like it was the only way I could show my appreciation, even if nobody ever saw it or knew I was doing it. You know? So that's kind of what I learned.
That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
It was also, we did it in Jersey City, and it was also just a nightly civic ritual, a way of connecting with people without knowing who they were or knowing their name, but just here in this moment, we're honoring the helpers.
Yeah, honoring it.
In this moment, strangers are connecting.
Yeah, it just seems an imperative to somehow, how else could you show your gratitude?
Absolutely right. How about you, David? What are some things, teachable moments for you, for yourself?
I'd say probably it was a combination of what Brad and Joanna said. I think it was, I mean, I think I rediscovered my love for being a hermit. So I, you know, grew my hair long and got a nice big beard.
Oh, you did too, huh?
Oh,
mine's usually short like this guy. This
I
has
just
been a
cut
pandemic project.
I just cut it about 4 or 5 days ago.
Did you?
So I'm getting used to my face again. But I think the appreciation for people who help, reconnecting. The thing that I think I realized how much I enjoy my life. And it reinvigorated. I mean, I've never quit filmmaking or acting, or I've always pushed. But, you know, you always have those moments where you're like, you know, should I maybe pack this in? And I was like, no, life's short. You got to do what you love. And then the other thing I realized how important it is to have the right people in your life. There's that feeling when, you know, we all think we're going to die or be turned into zombies, which is what they had us feeling like. And in that moment, everybody is on the same ship. It's, you know, it's the USS Kumbaya, and we're having a great, you know, everyone's there. But then what's interesting is once things starts to get better, certain people kind of go out with the tide. And then they come back, and they're not always bringing great smelling stuff when they come back, you know, as the tide rolls back in.
Right.
So I know for myself and my wife, because obviously we spent 18 months together constantly, and we're still together. So we were able to, you know, pull that off. But
that's right. That's impressive.
I think we both made really conscious choice that, you know, if certain people just are not, they don't have that energy of constructive moving forward or support, then we just don't want to spend that energy because it's a deficit. Yes. And I think what was really fascinating about this virus, and we were talking about energies and flows. Ultimately, it is an energy, right? Energy consists of everything.
Yeah.
Is that the virus kind of showed us this fact that we can all be affected by it, but also the things that the virus feeds on are the things that destroy us. You know, dis-ease causes disease.
Yes, dis-ease, right.
You know, so hypertension, stress, anxiety, negative emotions, all those things, that virus just seems to go after those folks. And whatever that energy does inside of a body, the virus seems to live off that and become like super virus, you know?
Yes.
If it wasn't already a super virus. So I think it was a really strong lesson, the teachable moment, is to have the right kinds of people in your life. At least for me. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do in their life, but that was a choice that we made. And I'm still holding to it, and I feel really good about it. You know, certain people I'm just not, I wish them the best, you know, I really do. But I don't need them in my life because I realized how much negativity they brought. I just got used to the negativity. So
you've had to do a little editing. Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. Brush off those editing skills. So
yes, I think we've all had
to.
And bless you, Brad. I saw the sneeze.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, God bless you, Brad. I know you sneezed.
And finally,
God bless you. But can I just say something about that? What David just said?
Yes, absolutely.
What I found, because I found that it showed people's core. If someone was a nice person or kind or generous, that came out more. If someone was egotistical and selfish and self-involved,
absolutely,
that came out more.
Right. So as much as
change the behavior, it kind of entrenched the
even more. So as much as we had to wear and have to wear the mask for our own health and well-being and that of each other, the masks also came off a lot of people to see what their true colors are about. And some of it you're like, well, that's what I always thought. And then some of it you're shocked and surprised, like, wow, really? Okay. Gonna take that name off the Christmas card list.
Yeah, it's true.
But this has been an amazing conversation, gang. And I want to bring it back to the initial reason. And this is the kind of thing we do on the Jim Master Show Live. We have a specific thing maybe that we're talking about, but then I like to bring it and just, it's life and it's living. It's a living, breathing organism. And we've all connected now here. Now, at some point, we're all going to have to get together and we're going to have to go to a diner and have fun and commiserate and eat and drink. I hope to break bread with all of you, newfound lovedies and friends here on the show. That's usually what always ends up happening when we do these episodes. Around the Sun, again, is your baby, and you guys are so proud of this project. And again, you've got an incredible team assembled here, and then an extraordinary additional cast and other behind the scenes folk who are making this happen. If people want to learn more, what is the best way to do it? We have this, which I know you had mentioned, there's other things you're working on, but Broadway Podcast Network, of course.
Yes.
Check it out there.
And
listen.
I can't believe that I have waited until the end of your show, Jim, to say that Around the Sun is available wherever you listen to podcasts for free. Self-contained episodes, roughly 10 minutes each. So a nice listen while you are waiting for coffee or at the checkout line at the grocery store to buy your overpriced groceries because of the supply chain issues. But this will put you at ease. This will put you, give you some peace. And hopefully, if we are doing our job, you'll feel a bit connected to us for the 10 minutes we get to spend together.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, right? To be able to provide some light and inspiration and joy and levity and the whole thing to those. Because as people sort of in the public eye, as we are doing what we do, we're the blessed ones getting a chance to do what we do. And it's every once in a while you come across by getting a letter, an actual physical letter or an email, a text, or bumping into somebody in the supermarket who then expresses to you the work you've done, whatever it is you've portrayed, whatever it is you've presented and created, how it's touched them deeply. And they've always admired what you've done and they look for more of it. And that is sort of some of the icing, not that you do any of this or any of us do any of this for that, but it's sort of the icing on the cake when people tell you, I follow what you're doing. I love and it inspires me. It lightens the load for me. It makes my day better. I had one of the worst days. I'm going through one of the worst times in my life. And what you're doing, that 10 minutes, like you say, or the time here on this show.
Yeah.
It just connects with people in ways that goes beyond. And sometimes as we're doing the work itself and the grind, and, you know, we can easily lose sight of that. And then somebody will come out of the woodwork and tell you that. And then you step back and you're like, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing what I do. And I'm sure each of you on multiple occasions have had those experiences, huh?
Yeah. And I can say, being in the privileged position of having written and produced Around the Sun, in addition to having acted in a single episode, I get to hear the comments about all the episodes.
Yes.
Not from people who post, but obviously I love that. And anyone can read everything that's publicly posted wherever you listen to podcasts. But I know that every single episode has resonated with someone or other, an aunt, a friend, some acquaintance in life that knows that I'm responsible for producing this podcast. People in my circle have commented on every single episode for some reason or other, because it touched them personally, or they found it humorous, or they liked what the implied message was. It's a really beautiful thing. And I'm glad I get to share that with Joanna and Dave, because it's typically something I just kind of get to keep with myself.
Exactly.
Because of the way life works.
There was somebody that was with us tonight that just wanted to say that he thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and he thinks that all of you collectively and individually knocked it out of the park. Mr. George Burns is with us tonight.
Oh,
Oh God,
Yes.
you devil.
yeah.
Yes.
And is he here to tell us to say goodnight?
Good night, Gracie, right? He usually pops in the end and puts a smile on everybody's face. My aunt collected dolls, and when he turned 100, this collectible came out, limited edition, what have you, and it got passed down to me. So I always, towards the latter part, throw it in. He's got his cigar, his hanky, he's good to go. And yeah, you had God on your side too.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mr. George Burns, absolutely.
That's great.
Some of our lovities, Brad, David, and Joanna, thank you all so much for spending time with us this evening. You're definitely lovities now. Welcome to the squad. Thank you very much, Maureen. Jim and his guests always make our days better. Thank you very much. That was Sherry in Kansas. Maureen is in Arizona. Merlin in Canada. You all take special care and have fun with all your endeavors. Stop and Watch Films, not to be confused with Stop and Shop Supermarket. Ha ha, he says. And they've been watching and commenting throughout the evening as well. And Joan Sando, thanks, Jim. Gift to Lovities and all you guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us tonight. What a wonderful conversation as well. Maureen says, thank you for the info, Brad, as well. Another great show. Thank you. We appreciate that. And thanks to all of the Lovities who have been commenting throughout, and all who will be watching this. We will be archiving this on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. So we encourage you to subscribe and show the levity to those who think would enjoy this episode, and all of them as well. So good stuff. Good stuff. This was fantastic, gang. I invite all of you to come back. We'll keep the porch light on for you. Congratulations on all of your individual work, your careers, Around the Sun as well, this extraordinary cast. And again, we encourage folks to seek it out and enjoy. And we'll be hearing more from Brad and Joanna and David. They are expert at what they do, and they love what they do. And they've graced our presence with their wit and wisdom tonight. I hope the show, gang, met whatever expectations you had, and you enjoyed the time with me and the Lovities as much as I have with each of you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for helping us get the word out about Around the Sun.
Yes, and available again where you find your podcasts, right?
Yes. And Jim, I'm looking forward to watching more of your episodes, because I've enjoyed the guests that I've had the privilege of watching thus far.
I appreciate that. So you're a viewer, that makes you an automatic lifelong Lovity, JMS Lovity. And now we've inducted Joanna and David into the fold as well.
Thank you.
We're all here in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area. So hopefully we'll be breaking bread soon. I would really look forward to that, gang. Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You guys be well. And as I say to all the guests, now go stretch those legs. Get the circulation going. We chatted for about an hour and 35 minutes. Not bad. Ad lib, unscripted too, huh?
Yeah.
I like the way Brad is ending, just as he started with that wave.
I'm a fan of the bookend structure, as listeners of Around the Sun will know.
The bookend structure. I love that. All right, gang, you're the best. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again soon, okay? And best of luck and congratulations on all the success with Around the Sun. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Take care. And thank you, Brad. It was a pleasure. See you soon.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Jim Masters here. Brad and Joanna and David, they are fantastic. And what a great episode, huh? Really poignant conversation, deep conversation as well. And Maureen says, let's see. Brad and David and Joanna, thank you all so much for spending time with us this evening. You're definitely lovelies now. Welcome to the squad. I love that. Kathleen in New York City says, great show. Thank you, Jim, and the guests. Absolutely. Thank you very much. We appreciate that as well. And thanks for all the great comments. You guys have been fantastic. Merlin again saying you all take special care and have fun with all your endeavors. And Joan Sandow, thanks, Jim. You're a gift to Lovities and all your guests. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Joan. Very beautiful of you to say that. I hope you guys are doing well and you're having a good day wherever you're watching from. If not, again, you know this is the place to come to be enlightened, informed, entertained, have a good time with all of us as well. Jane watching in Sweden, one of our regular Lovities, she says, thank you, Brad and David and Joanna, for being here tonight. Yes, our Lovities are very, very cordial. They're a cordial lot for sure. And thanks for all of this, gang. Don't forget, of course, you can find over 600, can't believe that. I think we're counting around 630 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. Not just an interview show, but really a place to come for variety, entertainment, levity, and our famous levity as well. All on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Spread the word. We're doing something special here. We created a wonderful community. Don't forget to subscribe to Jim Masters TV. That helps us big time. And of course, give this episode and all the episodes you enjoy a hearty like. That's that thumbs up icon you see there on the YouTube channel underneath this episode. And leave a comment on the channel as well. We thank Brad and Joanna and David for joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Again, cast, producers, extraordinaire, Around the Sun. And again, backed by an extraordinary cast of legends, Oscar-winning, Tony-winning, Grammy, I mean, you name it, Emmy-winning cast. Really, really extraordinary. You guys are amazing. Jim, how much snow did you get? We got about 1.5 feet along the coast here. As you guys know, we're in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, along the southern New England coast between New York and Boston. It's about 1.5 feet. Roads are clear. It looks really nice on the grass and the trees right now. So yeah, we made it through. And Maureen says, if you ain't got lovity, you ain't got nothing. This is the place to be. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And really, really cool stuff. And wasn't it cool? You learned that David is a second cousin to Christopher Knight. Yes, Peter Brady. That was a revelation exclusive on the Jim Masters Show Live. You guys are terrific. Jane says, thanks, Jim. Good night, everyone. You as well. Just wanted to show you, gang, we have a phenomenal array of extraordinary guests that are coming up. We have legendary singer, songwriter, and composer John Michael Ferrari. He is joining us tomorrow right here, and he's going to perform live at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We cannot wait. That's going to be fantastic. We also have coming up this week, Lord of the Cello. Yes, he also was Sarek in Star Trek: The Next Generation. He's an extraordinary award-winning cellist. Marston Smith is a legend. He's going to be here as well. We're very excited to have multi-award winning composer and lyricist Scott Evan Davis joining us this week as well. My buddy, he was in Gossip Girl as Frank Meltzer, but he's also an extraordinary film producer and actor. David Gear is going to be with us this week as well. Very excited about that. on Saturday from Celtic Woman. As you guys know, I've interviewed all of Celtic Woman, Celtic Thunder through my work over the years on PBS, but she's the newest in the gang. Violinist, fiddler, singer, harpist from Celtic Woman. Tara McNeil is going to be with us live from Ireland. Yes, and that's going to be fantastic. And of course, humorist, dress expert, author, Loretta LaRoche, PBS host as well. She's going to be with us coming in February, also from Ireland, making his return visit to the Jim Master Show Live. Irish singer-songwriter, lyric tenor George Hutton is going to be with us. And yesterday we had from Celtic Thunder, Neil Byrne, his third time on the Jim Masters Show Live, and it was absolutely epic. If you didn't see that episode, check it out. You guys are terrific. You're still piling in all these great comments. Thank you so much, gang. Christine Clifton in North Carolina says, Jim, this was wonderful. An in-depth conversation with Brad, Joanna, and David. Thanks. Good night, Jim, and all Lovities. Lovity hugs to you as well. Thank you, Christine, watching as always in North Carolina. Kathleen in New York City says, have a great night. Good night, all. Stay well and safe. Hugs to you as well, Kathleen. And as I have mentioned, Kathleen Walker and I actually were on the Rachel Ray Show. We got a chance to be on the Rachel Ray Show, and that was cool. We have to do that again once they're bringing studio audiences back in to the fold. And Merlin in Ontario says, relax and nighty-night. Thank you very much, gang. You guys are the best. Thanks for all the comments, all the lovity, the expression of lovity as well. And again, one more time, we do thank our very, very special guests coming in from the greater New York area, Brad and Joanna and David. They were absolutely epic. And again, it is Around the Sun. Sort of like Around the Sun, the way I'm doing it here, huh? Around the poster. There you go. And check that out. You're going to love it. It's going to brighten your day, just like our show does as well. So that's a wrap. We thank you very much. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, we'll be back tomorrow night live, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll keep the light on for you here. We hope that you'll join us. If you miss any of our episodes, watch them in the archives. There's over 630. You can binge watch. A lot of people like to binge watch the episodes with all our great conversations, the entertainment, levity, and so much more. And we appreciate that. Continue to spread the word about our show. Tell everybody you know. Get on top of Mount Everest with a bullhorn and say, I love the Jim Master Show Live. Maureen says, sending all the love and warm hugs to everyone. Right back at you, Maureen. From all of us here at the Jim Masters Show Live. You take care and be well. We'll see you on the next episode, okay? Jim Masters thanking you for your time this time. Till next time. Be well. Love one another. We'll see you again soon. Cheers.